Mr. President, thank you very much. May I first compliment what I think is the highest standard of floor speeches that I've actually heard in my time coming to the Oxford Union. This morning on Woman's Hour, a woman activist from the United States had come over to talk about robotic warfare. And what she said was that she was very, very disappointed in America. In fact, all the problems that she could see around the world, as far as she was expressing them, were American. And wasn't it a shame, she said, that Barack Obama was turning out to be no better than George Bush? And I thought, if you think about it, that's a very double-edged comment you're making there. If you'd only inspect your own attitudes and your own opinions. And the reason is really simple. There are problems that an American president like Barack Obama has to try and deal with that have some similarity to the problems that a person that he opposed politically, President Bush, has to deal with. But you, oh lady who I was listening to on the radio this morning, you have no answer for dealing with any of them. And the main thing that I'm going to put to you in this summation of our argument about drone warfare is that when you look at everything that has been said by the opposition this evening about how it is they would deal with the sort of problems that President Bush and President Obama, and for that matter, other governments, including the Pakistani governments, have to deal with, it all comes up to one big round amount, which is nothing. Nothing. There was no proposal. There is no sense of how they would deal with these propositions. I'm going to progress a little further and then you can have a go. Let's look at this I have here is a list of Al-Qaeda leaders killed in drone attacks on the federal administered tribal areas of Pakistan since 2005. Now, I could read them out to you. Abu Yahya al-Libi, who was a Libyan citizen, served as Al-Qaeda's chief of staff and senior clerical aide. I could talk about the person who was confirmed dead from a drone strike just this week by Pakistani and other media. I could talk about the bomb factories and the bomb makers who have been taken out as a consequence of drone strikes in those areas. There is, and I think if the opposition is honest, they will agree, there have been a shed load of Al-Qaeda, Taliban and other people taken out by drone strikes in the federal administrated tribal areas of Pakistan. So I would like to know, only if you can answer this question, what do you think they were doing there, having a holiday? Cream.
Maybe if we didn't do things like drone strikes, such people wouldn't exist.
I think you can tell by the applause that that may not be quite as good a point as you thought it was when you stood up. The business of blaming the victim for being victimised and so on is an old game, but nevertheless reprehensible. As you can see, I'm going to progress a little bit. I took one, and we can see what happened. If you wanted the same thing to happen to you, that's fine. The other organisations operating are not just Al-Qaeda, although Al-Qaeda has been operating there, and incidentally, it's pretty well admitted by most people who are analysts of the situation, although perhaps the experts over here would like to tell me differently, that Al-Qaeda has been significantly damaged by drone strikes both there and in Yemen, but mostly in the federal administrated tribal areas. You know different, Chris. You will be able to tell us what the basis of your evidence is that Al-Qaeda has not been damaged, but you can wait a moment. But that's not the only sort of person who's been in the Fatah area. You've got to understand that contrary to what the lady said, who spoke so eloquently and invoked the name of Christ at the end of her piece, like a modern what you've got to understand is that these are also the homes to people like Lashkar-e-Jhangvi. Does anybody here know what Lashkar-e-Jhangvi is, the organisation? This is the organisation that's been principally responsible for the bombing of Pakistani Shia mosques in towns like Quetta, hundreds of more of whom have died than have died as civilians in any drone strikes that America has launched. And a significant proportion of the capacity of Lashkar-e-Jhangvi to operate has been taken out. And this, incidentally, is why the Pakistani government plays this odd game of saying in public that it disagrees with drone strikes, while in private actually agreeing to their use in Fatah. And this comes back down to another point, which is that when they try to deal in this completely lawless area, and there is no rule of law effectively in those areas, then they lose far more soldiers in those areas than even the civilians who are claimed to have been killed in drone strikes. And incidentally, can I just say this? Yeah, point of information. Sorry, what's the oi for?
Why did they not use drones in the assassination of Osama bin Laden?
Why did they not use drones?
Yes.
I have no idea, but I presume that they used drones in order to make sure that he was there. I would imagine to absolutely ensure that he was the person that they killed. Wouldn't you think so? I mean, wouldn't you guess?
So precise.
Okay, fine. Well, okay. I don't know what it's got to do with this, but that's my answer. Yes, lady there.
Thank you very much. To bring you back to the point that was made just previously, okay, so you killed all these Al-Qaeda leaders, but what dragon's teeth have you sowed?
Okay, I was coming to that exact point.
And to continue with that, these are suspected terrorists. We've had some suspected terrorists arrested in this country and presumably will be tried. Are you suggesting that we should now stop doing that but send a few drones to take them out?
Can you conceive that there is a difference between having somebody under surveillance in a room in Dagenham and having somebody making a bomb factory in the middle of Waziristan? Can you conceive that there is a distinction there? No, come on. Be fair, let me carry on. I've been fair. When it came down to the business of actually not trying to destroy these networks of terrorists in Pakistan, you will remember what happened. The Pakistani government decided to take a line of less resistance with the Pakistani Taliban in the issue of Swat, the province of Swat. Who here can forget what happened to Malala Yousafzai, who was sent alone with all her fellow girl students and not allowed an education in that area as a result of the Taliban taking over? When the Pakistani army went back into Swat and retook it, because unfortunately the Taliban didn't keep to their side of the bargain and decided they quite liked Islamabad and Karachi as well, as it happened. When they went back in, they made 900,000 people temporarily homeless and killed by a proportion of several dozens more people and civilians than have ever been killed in drone strikes. That is a fact, and the result was that Swat was retaken from the Taliban. Another reason why the Pakistani government actually looks one way and speaks another. Wouldn't you, under those circumstances as well? So, and this is the point. If that is the problem that you have insurgency into Afghanistan undermining the Afghan government of President Karzai, and you wish to draw down your troops there. You have significant terrorist capability, and not just terrorist capability, but other capabilities coming out and organised largely in a complete area of lawlessness, and it will turn itself into bombs, and when it's not interdicted, it does turn itself into bombs. That's the problem for your side. Your side means deaths too. You don't escape from this with your hands completely clean. If we do what you say, and we are waiting for your 180 million Pakistanis to reform themselves in this magical way in which you kind of evolved, in that meantime, people will die as a consequence of not using drone strikes. Oh, well, there you say, they die anyway. They die anyway. There must therefore be a consequence to the other side of this argument. I'm going to have to draw this argument to a conclusion. The alternative, if you think that something has to be done, and actually that really becomes, as ever in these arguments, the real dividing line. Well, it doesn't really matter. The opponents to drones, by and large, don't really care if these are drones or if they're accurate or not accurate. They're American weapons and they don't want them used anywhere. They identify by and large America as being the most significant problem. What other place have you heard about as being a problem here, incidentally? Most of the worst atrocities which have occurred as a result of American arms or other arms in Yemen and elsewhere, are actually not the result of drones. Drones are easier to use. They are actually, funnily enough, much more accountable, because you can't use the argument of their inaccuracy constantly as an excuse as to why things have gone wrong. There are many, many problems with warfare. There are many problems with drones. There are many problems with accountability that have yet to be sorted out. There are many problems with transparency. But do you think for one moment, and here's where we come together, take drones out of the whole equation, of the whole world equation, you're never going to use them again. Do you imagine for 1 second as you come to vote that the world would actually be a better or a worse place if you took them away? It would be worse.